You're listening to Subsound Radio. We bring you streaming and live broadcasting from the capital. This is the Arpa podcast. Welcome to the latest episode of the Arpa podcast. Location Capriccio Park. Joining me, of course, as always, is the wonderful Maria. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, so welcome back to the newest episode. We're coming up to the final moments of Easter. Well, in a couple of weeks, St. Patrick's Day is on the horizon, and after that, the summer. Who knows what's going to happen over the next few months? But we're going to be here to cover all of it. But of course, today we have the small matter of this podcast. And do you know what we're going to talk about today?
No, you're going to surprise me.
Cleopatra coming at you. This is the topic of today's podcast because we have in-house a Cleopatra expert. And by expert, I mean Maria. So we have a Cleopatra Maria. So you are involved in some extent or something, in some respect to the Cleopatra events that are happening in Madrid at the moment. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I'm just guiding a tour.
Well, save that for after the musical interlude. So stay tuned. We're going to hear more about Cleopatra and Maria talking about it. So yeah, wait your turn.
Okay.
Okay, now you can talk about Cleopatra. So, your time starts now.
Well, now I don't want to say anything.
It's going to be a very short podcast, I'm not going to lie.
Okay. So basically, I'm involved in guiding some tours to the Cleopatra exhibition, which is in the Fundacion Canal in Madrid. And I just do it with a heritage company called Ep2.
Well, why is there an exhibition about Cleopatra right now in a place like Madrid? What's the reason behind it?
Well, I think it's always a topic of interest. You know, it's one of these historical characters that people have a fascination for. So I think, Fundacion Canal just puts together exhibitions every so often for different topics, and a lot of the time they ask for people's opinions on what they would like to see.
Okay.
And, I would imagine that this is something that people have a lot of.
Are most of their ideas feasible? Or what kind of things do people suggest?
Well, actually, they have some survey forms, and they kind of give you ideas about what you would like to see, and they're usually things like maybe Dali or just kind of quite popular artists.
So nothing really
topics anyway.
Nothing really surprising then.
Not really. I wouldn't say surprising.
Okay.
No.
So you've given a few of these tours. Has the turnout been quite good?
Yeah, the turnout was quite amazing. Last time we had about 25 people. So.
Is that on average what would be a good crowd for a tour like this?
Well, anything over 8 is actually quite good. Well, 8 has to be the minimum to
okay.
tour. But
so standards being set very high here for crowd expectations.
Yeah, but it depends. Usually we just use radio guides, which it means rather than me shouting, people can hear me. through like earpieces, so that it's not a problem to have a big group when you have this technology.
Okay, so when you have the opportunity to do something, about Dali or about Cleopatra in this instance, something that is very popular, do the public want to know or to relearn what they already know to some extent, or do you see it as an opportunity to teach something new or to take a new approach to the subject?
For me personally, you mean?
Well, for you personally, but also, I mean, generally for the heritage. I mean, how much scope do you have to apply a different slant on it, or what do you do? Well, how do you approach delivering a message or education about these topics that are picked by the public?
Well, I mean, I think obviously it depends what kind of like tour you're guiding, but we always try to make it like professional. It's an archaeology or a heritage tour, so people don't expect just to have the usual information that you can get out of the internet, but they just want to, or at least that's the intention of the tour, for people to get into like learning proper facts. I mean, it doesn't mean it has to be boring, but just informative.
Okay, and do you have feedback forms for people that come to see your exhibitions? What are their comments generally, or if they come up to you after you give the tour?
Yeah, quite a few people have been sort of kind enough to come over at the end, and I think people appreciate it when you try to give them information, but make it entertaining as well.
Yeah.
I think just with language, just making it accessible is to be honest, I think it's a duty of like archaeologists and historians and anybody that works in like anything to do with public outreach, that one of the aims is to communicate. So it's not good just to keep things within academia. We really have to communicate to the public and spread knowledge.
Do you believe that there's a retention rate, so to speak, of people coming back, not specifically to your museum, but to go back and do their own research into the topics that you cover? If they see a talk or presentation about Dali or Cleopatra, it sparks an interest in them, and they go on to learn more about it in their own time.
Well, I'm not sure if that's the case, because I think a lot of people come with the idea that they want to know about a topic, and going to a tour is an easy way of getting all the information without doing their own research.
Okay.
But I think it definitely motivates them to go and see other exhibitions. Like, for example, here with Cleopatra, we talked a lot about objects that we have in the Archaeological Museum, in the National Museum here in Madrid. And a lot of people were quite keen on coming to see those objects afterwards.
Is Madrid unique for European cities to have Egyptian culture? Because in the other European cities, I think maybe there's more an emphasis on Greek and Roman civilizations, but there seems to be more of an emphasis here, as far as I can see, on learning about Egyptian heritage. Is that a fair comment?
I think maybe like you're slightly biased because I talk about this so much, but no, I mean we try our best, but definitely in other places is more of a it's more round, I would say. Obviously in Paris you have the Louvre, and in Berlin there's also quite a lot of interest in Egypt, and there's a very important museum there as well. Well, like with anything with archaeology, we're getting there.
Okay, and we've spoken before about the Templo de Bod, which is how would you describe it, archaeologist?
Okay, so the temple is a late period temple. Like by that I mean sort of like more towards the end of what people would think of as ancient Egypt, and it just got usually people say it got given to us as a present, but in reality the government bought it for a small fee. But it was basically to say thanks for the help from the Spanish archaeological mission that took part in the mission to save the monuments after the Aswan Dam was built in the 60s.
Okay, and it's fallen. Well, it's quite a popular tourist destination. There's a park around it, and people go to see it. But the kind of museum structure itself is a little bit in disrepair, and it's a controversial subject, I believe. So, can you shed some light on this little side note in Egyptian Spanish history?
Okay, well, I think I would like to go too much into that because it's always like a bit of a controversial topic because it's in a way it's quite political, isn't it? Usually happens with temples that depend on local museums and so on. But I mean, there's definitely an effort, and there's been an intention to try and make a better, display and just sort of like give the temple the surroundings it deserves. Because a lot of people are not even aware that the temple is there, or they don't know what they're looking at, and it would be quite
a nice thing for them to see.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what the next exhibition will be after Cleopatra? Have the results come in from the public?
I think this is collective. Obviously, the exhibition runs until the end of May, so there's still plenty of time for people to go and see it and give more ideas.
How can they book tickets?
They can book tickets in the IBEREM website, for example, or on Facebook or on Twitter.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you for your very informative description of the current Cleopatra exhibition. So join us after this other musical interlude where we'll talk some more before leaving you off to enjoy the rest of your day. So, welcome back to the last part of the show. So we're going to... How are you doing? Some onlookers there. We're doing this public podcast, so we've generated a bit of a following here. So, some notes before we finish. We've been running this virtual exhibition for the last 2 weeks involving six paintings from different artists that we've contacted via the power of social media, so that namely Twitter. So you were in charge really of contacting most. By most, I mean all of the artists. So the feedback from them has been quite positive, hasn't it? About our big, our massive, absolutely fantastic virtual exhibition, hasn't it?
Yeah, very much so. To be honest, they were really nice, and they were very happy to be involved, and then they were actually quite pleased with the results of our analysis, and they quite enjoyed it. They were quite curious at first to know what things we were going to write about their paintings. And then they were actually quite happy with the results. So
well, we had to be positive, just play nice. But no, we liked all the paintings, and also as well. Thank you, whoever you guys are, for coming to our website. We've had a huge increase in traffic and likes on Facebook and shares and all that kind of stuff. So we're now marginally more successful and popular than we were before we started this thing. Do you remember the address of our virtual exhibition site? That's a no. So, but never fear. Find us on Twitter at Arpa1. That's our Twitter handle, or go to our website larpa.com, and you'll find not only the analysis of our paintings, but also links to the virtual exhibition place itself. So before we finish, anything else that you would like to add, archaeologist, doctor?
Okay, well, can you give us a bit of an introduction about what we're going to talk about next week?
Well, I haven't thought that far ahead, so it's going to be a surprise for all of us, I think, listeners, and for you, and even for me. So, but please do come back, listener, for our next episode of the Arpa podcast. Thank you for tuning in this week, and enjoy the rest of your week. So this is Enda from Arpa saying bye-bye.
And Maria, bye.
Bye. You're listening to Subsound Radio. We bring you streaming and live broadcasting from the capital. This is the Arpa podcast.